Opinion polls. The report looks at how Ugandans rate the performance of President Museveni, his level of popularity vis-a-vis the NRM party, the debate on who should succeed him, the pressing needs that Ugandans say must be urgently addressed, the level of political maturity in the country, the dangers linked to poor electioneering processes, the fate of the opposition, among other issues. The report also analyzes the quality of opposition we have in Uganda, and if it makes sense for the top opposition leader, Dr. Kizito, to contest in 2016, having lost 3 times so far to Mr. Museveni. At the launch of this report, the usual skepticism about the findings was registered, with many questioning the sample size and the overall aim of the research. But the researchers insist that opinion polls are scientific and that Ugandans must begin to accommodate innovations that have proven to be vital in gauging public opinion and setting the agenda elsewhere. So tonight we look at the findings of this latest opinion poll to try and understand the perception of Ugandans and how this could shape the future of this country. Our guests tonight: Dr. Patrick Wakida, Chief Executive Officer of the Research World International. You're most welcome, Mr. Wakida.
Thank you very much.
We're also joined by Mr. Pido Lukwiya from the State House Media Desk. You're most welcome, Mr. Lukwiya.
Thank you very much, listeners.
We're also joined by Mr. Vincent Mayanja, Deputy Secretary General of the Democratic Party. You're most welcome, Mr. Mayanja.
Thank you, Edmond. Good evening, viewers and listeners.
Viewers, because we're also on YouTube, all over the internet. We're also joined by Ms. Patience Bulage, Senior Research Executive at Research World International. You're most welcome, Ms. Bulage.
Thank you so much. Good evening, listeners.
Patrick, could you tell us about Research World International?
Research World International is purely a research company registered in Uganda and conduct surveys in this country. Politics and social research is just part of the products of the company. We specialize in social, political, and governance research. We specialize in customized research, in brand promotions and brand analysis. And if you read in this poll, you're beginning to see that we used a brand angle to understand the brand in this country. We are situated in Kiwatule on a building called Country Mall. It's a company with permanent staff and field staff up to 80 in number. We are in the Great Lake region where we can't physically operate. We work with other research agencies. Say in DRC, we do our studies with them. In Nairobi, we have an outlet there, so we don't need to do that. In Tanzania, we conduct our studies in there. Data entry of all the studies done in the Greater Lake region is in-house, entered here in Uganda.
So this is the head office?
This is the head office, and it's a condition that all data is provided by the data manager who sits here in Kampala. If you want to enter your data, however much the volume it is, we will enter it for you, analyze it for you, and give you the specs.
All right.
Yeah.
So why did you carry out these studies?
There are quite a number of objectives. One, the question that has been there is who funded this poll? And I want to make it clear here that funding a poll should not be an issue at this point. Like I've said earlier, if you went to Stanbic Bank and said, what's your social responsibility?
The corporate social responsibility.
Corporate social responsibility. They will tell you we support, say, gender mainstreaming, or we support children on the street. Now, because social, political, and polling is part of our brand.
This is your CSR.
Exactly. So we say that every year, how do we give to the public?
Right.
In this context.
All right.
So we save money on each and every project.
Right.
For this particular purpose.
All right. Pido Lukwiya, you come from the State House Media Desk. How did you receive this report?
Thank you so much, Edmond, and listeners out there. First of all, I must thank Radio 1 for inviting me to discuss this report that has been published by Research World International to purportedly to show the state of the political status quo in the country. I think, Mr. Edmond, this report confirms the historical agenda of NRM, that NRM has historically pledged to protect and promote freedom of conscience, freedom of thinking, freedom of speech.
Well, I mean, obviously it agrees with what it wrote what you would have written yourself. So you really are glotting here. You're happy that they did you have a part to play in it?
Mr. Edmond, I'm coming to that. NRM is not a party to this research. From the work, from the statement of the author of this document, you asked him a very brilliant question that what motivated him to carry out the study. You heard from his explanation. I will not dwell into that. You also asked him brilliantly that who funded it. These are very salient and important questions to address. But as NRM, we are very grateful that this report has been published.
You're happy with the results?
Not necessarily that we are happy with the result. NRM is one government in the entire region that has been accepting criticism from different walks of life, from the media, from civil society, from every walk of life, as long as the criticism is positive, is developmental.
Then there will be no tear gas.
But it's not a question of tear gas. Tear gas comes with the breach of public order. Tear gas comes with the breach of public order. I don't think, Mr. Edmond, anybody has ever followed you up to your home with a tear gas. Unless you have been involved in breach of public order or public peace. But as NRM, we're grateful this report has been published. The first thing we question about the report is what you rightly put at the start of it all, that the sample size. The sample size of the report is very small. 1,300 people is a very small number to reflect position of the country on very critical governance and development issues in the country. Like popularity of a president cannot be measured.
Well, I mean, this is only a sample, so we'll get the details. First of all, let's hear from you, Mr. Vincent Mayanja. How did you receive this report? You come from the opposition. He agrees with everything in it.
I think this, first and foremost, I normally say that I don't want to kill the messenger. I want to look at the message. And definitely we welcome this message because it gives us work to do as the opposition, but it also gives the NRM a mirror to look into and then understand what the population is saying. But for me, I wouldn't really draw much on the scope of the survey, because if you are doing real research, as somebody who has done research before, you don't think I don't expect them to go for 1 million people or 10,000.
Take a sample. It's like
you just take a sample and you coin out the area or you want to capture, and I think you get it if you do the sampling the survey as a random survey. You get it because these people are not expecting you to come to them.
Well, okay.
So I don't want my colleagues in NRM really to dwell much on that. But I think we need to look at the real issues in here. Why is the population saying or voicing out what we see? We have seen, I think we just need to reflect on 1 year of President Museveni since he was sworn in. I think the first day he was sworn in has marked the entire year he has been in office. Because on the first day he was sworn in at Kololo, tear gas was flying everywhere on Entebbe Road. Deployment in Kampala since President Museveni was sworn in has not changed a bit. I every day see policemen moving down in a single line, really armed to the teeth.
So I think that sends a bad signal. And I've already told these guys that, you know, when you want to sell a product, don't try to do things that are not going to sell it. But what we have seen for the last 1 year is bad policies, insensitivity, rampant corruption, lack of, you know, caring about things like health, like education, and I don't care attitude on the part of the NRM leaders. I think that is being read by the people down there. And we need to reflect on that and forge a way forward.
We'll talk about that. Of course, the opposition, the NRM might have its force, but the opposition is totally disorganized. That's why you don't even get any mileage from this kind of negative perceptions of the NRM. Talk to us, Patience Bulage, about the research findings. What exactly came out of this report, this survey?
The findings are very clear. We have numerous interesting issues coming out. Speaking of female candidates coming on, which is kind of a very new thing, which took us also by surprise during the analysis. We have issues regarding the most pressing problems about the economy since the last elections, 2011, which shows that actually most of the people are doing worse or badly off, and they think the economy needs
people's to be pockets are weaker.
Yes,
now
that's what people have expressed in the findings.
Right. Let's talk about the female candidates that you spoke. Who came out?
Well, among the female candidates, interestingly, there is Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, the Speaker of Parliament currently, and Janet Museveni coming head to head, you know. If it's within the NLM party, it's mainly Janet, but if it's countrywide for presidential, it's Rebecca Kadaga, Honorable Rebecca Kadaga. So
let's get that again.
Yes.
If it is
within the NRM party,
Janet is more popular.
Yes.
Countrywide,
if it's countrywide for a president, it's Rebecca Kadaga. And then a few others like Winnie Byanyima and then Betty Kamya definitely are mentioned with a few percentages, but which cannot remain ignored.
They're not statistically insignificant.
Well, they are not insignificant because they have the ability to rise, and if they can be spoken of like that right now, then that means, you know, something is coming up.
Well, listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1 tonight. 1 year into the fourth term of President Museveni, what is the perception of the country? Looking at the Ugandans, looking at findings of the latest opinion poll. Our guests tonight, Dr. Patrick Wakida, Chief Executive Officer of Research World International, the group that carried out this opinion poll, Mr. Pido Lukwiya from the State House Media Desk, Mr. Vincent Mayanja, Deputy Secretary General of the Democratic Party, also a veteran journalist, and Miss Patience Bulage, Senior Research Executive. You two will be able to contribute to this discussion. Patrick, how relevant are these facts that you emerged with?
95% relevant. This is one of the polls I would put my hand and say cut it if you doubt this. Because I did it. We have the findings that came from the public. At one point, I asked my team that what are you seeing in the data? And they told me very interesting things. And I said, I want to look at that data when you have finished cleaning it. And when I started analyzing the data, it was quite unique. From all the polls I've conducted, 13 polls on the continent of Africa. In Uganda, I've conducted 3 polls. This is the most unique poll. It could be that most of the polls I've been conducting them in the season of election. This is one of the polls I have done outside the season of election. So it's a standalone poll. In 2011, I conducted a poll in which I asked people, how free are you to talk about politics? I had overwhelming number, up to about 27 to 29, saying, we don't want to talk about that. When you come here and you have over 80% of the population saying we are very free to talk about politics.
What is the comparative figure, what that were coming from? Before, what was the percentage again?
Before, here we have 80%
now.
About 88%.
That's close to 90.
Yes.
And before?
Before it was about 30%.
30%. So from 30%, 60 percentage points gain.
There is a very big shift.
What time frame?
We are talking about December last year. we are talking about today. This speaks about six months.
All right.
Now,
5 months.
5 months. The difference there is that time there were elections.
Yes.
Now there are no elections.
Yes.
We are talking about the time of election, the December of election. Remember there was December, January, and February election.
Yes.
That period, we did that study to find out, and the people free to talk about politics. And it's normally a very good question to ask
Yes.
in the beginning to see whether the response you are going to get
Is inhibited or not?
is inhibited or not.
Correct.
And we are getting this kind of
All right.
response.
We'll get more detail because I'd like to know some of the methods and so on. But Vincent, that shows that the NRM is free, open space. People can talk freely.
No, I think
Should go for another 30 years.
it is mainly because Ugandans have been oppressed and they don't care much. When you see
Well, in
people-
December they were not free. Now they are free.
Well, I don't think that it's about freedom. And in fact, we were on this desk and discussed a previous opinion poll that was published. And I commented saying that in Africa, when you go out there and ask people about politics, most of the time they may think that you are from the ruling party or somewhere and they fear talking to you. And they would definitely not give you the answers. Or when they answer, they will answer in a way that will please those they fear. But this time, if you see the population, the scope of the survey, you said 80%?
88, almost 90.
88% saying that we can talk about politics.
Yes.
Very freely.
Then that is very interesting.
Oh,
But
it's
it is not
interesting.
given. It is not given by the ruling party.
Yes.
It's given by the
Message on the street.
no. By what these people are facing, that we are ready to talk about this.
Yes, go on.
We are ready to talk about this.
Right.
If you want to kill us, if you come tomorrow and kill us, no problem. But we have to talk about this because this concerns our future.
Peter, before we get more details on the results.
See, Mr. Edmond, in NRM we believe that even if we may not like what you say,
Who named the NRM?
we will die
Say
to
that.
protect what you say.
Go on.
Vincent is my very good friend. I know him a long time.
Yes.
Vincent has been speaking very passionately against NRM and has been peacefully sleeping in his house. As NRM, we shall guarantee his freedom to criticize us, to say anything he wants to say about us,
Right.
including what he's saying now. But when we are measuring the achievement of NRM in 1 year, let us not forget one fact that NRM did not come on the 12th of May 2011 when the president was sworn in for this term of office. And it is true that when you are implementing policies are implemented alongside the budget. NRM started implementing its policy in the first term. In the first year
Yes.
of this term, 2011-2016.
With supplementary budget.
Not with the supplementary budget. Supplementary budget came later on. When the budget was passed only by Parliament, around October, that's when the party started implementing its policies. So this is how long this is how much period are you talking about? This is a period between October last year and May this year. What has NRM done? There are things we have been standing for from 1986 to date. One of them is the peace and stability of the whole country.
Yes.
Not one place.
Right.
Every corner of Uganda at the moment, every citizen enjoys peace and stability. This is one historic achievement that NRM will be remembered for, is a milestone. Secondly, Mr. Edmond, is we have maintained a wide democratic space
Right.
for all civic and political actors to act. This is what we've guaranteed constitutionally as NRM. We have the good political will to guarantee this space. Thirdly, we are upholding the principle of separation of powers. These are principles that will never run away from us NRM.
I want to
Fourthly,
Go on.
fourthly, no, you're coming, my brother, you're coming. Fourthly, within this principle of separation of power, we have guaranteed independence of each organ of government. And finally, we have maintained warm relations with all our neighbors. Now, if we come into the nitty-gritties of what NRM pledged at elections last year.
Right.
Then we can talk about it now.
Okay.
Because these are the issues that you might measure NRM. How far has NRM gone into this
You
direction?
might not be able to do that. Patience, talk to us about the methods that you use very briefly.
Okay, I had a comment, but I can keep it for the next time regarding what he has just said, because I'm wondering, since you're saying it's October to May, then maybe it's known to you as NRM, the party, but much of the public does not know it. This is not to criticize you, but just to inform you. But once the public does not know, then no one can be able to speak about it, because it's only known to you guys. Well, the methods of the survey, the research design was purely quantitative, like we said in the morning, which means we had a questionnaire which was close-ended, meaning when we ask a question, you give, we expect you to give specific answers within a certain parameter. So it was not at freedom for someone to explain. No, we just wanted that specific answer. So it was basically quantitative. If any researcher out there knows what it means, it's quantitative research.
Explain that in more detail.
Well, in quantitative research, like I've already said, we use, first and foremost, the design of the questions is different because we keep them within a certain limit.
Certain parameters, yes?
Yes, certain parameters, and even the responses. It's like we already estimate something that is going to come up, and if we are providing parameters,
you guide the
options, yes, which, but not, we don't actually.
Not necessarily ABCD.
Yeah, exactly.
But
not
you give broad
necessarily,
parameters.
Exactly, yeah,
Well,
within that. And
okay, we'll go for a break. Listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1 tonight, 1 year into the fourth term of President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. What is the perception of Ugandans? Looking at findings of the latest opinion poll. We're going for a break. When we come back, we'll look at some of the key concerns. What people think, if they were a poll today, who would get what percentage, and what you think is likely to happen in 2016. Do stay tuned.
The power to change lives is the most powerful thing in the world. It will be alive in full force on the 25th of May at the Serena Kampala Hotel. Join the Uganda Rotary Cancer Program together with Susan Kerunen in the Achera Achera Singing for Life concert and help raise money for the fight against cancer. Featuring guest performances by Michael Ouma, Benon Mugumbia, and Jackie Chandiru. It's a night that is not to be missed. All proceeds go towards the construction of a 2-floor cancer ward at St. Francis Hospital in Zambia. Tickets are available for 100,000 shillings and 250,000 shillings at all Shell petrol stations: Capital, Ginger Road, Lugogo, Bugolobi, Kabalagala, Bukoto, Kia Road, and Alliance Francaise. Supported by Radio 1.
Join Airtel today and get 50% bonus airtime instantly. That's right, 50% bonus airtime to call across all networks. Simply buy and register a new Airtel SIM card. Top up 1,000 shillings and more, and 50% bonus airtime to call across all networks is yours. Join Airtel today. Get bonus today.
Airtel. Ça va, hello. My name is Kogole Andemina, very serious Congolese tailor. People see me when they want to look good. People leave my shop looking like superstars of TV. But however much I make you look beautiful or even sexy like me, I cannot change the person inside, the real you. Kind of like Uganda Waraji. It has this beautiful look, but inside they have maintained the same old spirit that we know. The same old spirit we have known for many years in a new suit. New look. Oh, you need to try it.
Enjoy the new look Uganda Waraji. The same Ugandan spirit with a new look. Uganda Waraji. Same spirit, new look. Excessive consumption of alcohol is harmful to your health. Not for sale to persons under 18 years. Please drink responsibly. Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum tonight, one year into the fourth term of President Museveni. What is the perception of Ugandans? Looking at findings of the latest opinion poll. Our guests tonight, Dr. Patrick Wakida, Chief Executive Officer, Research World International, the group that carried out the opinion poll, Mr. Pido Lukwiya from the State House Media Desk, Mr. Vincent Mayanja, Deputy Secretary General of the Democratic Party, and Ms. Patience Bulage, Senior Research Executive at the Research World International. You two will be able to contribute by calling in at some stage. Patrick, what are some of the key concerns that came out of this study? Very briefly.
Thank you very much. As I was saying, one of the things that appears very strong is that people, at a time of no elections, they have the freedom to talk about politics. And during the elections, if I compare it with the previous electioning period, you find people are freezing. They are not able to talk about it.
Yes.
Now, the implication here is that probably during the election, their harassment, their expectations, and after the elections, people go back and sit free to themselves. So this is what we found out there. Now, majorly, this study describes an economy that has problems. Now, in order for you to understand the economy that has a problem, you want to understand how the people themselves feel.
Yes.
I asked you a question, 12 months since election, are you better off economically? You start by looking at your household, look at in your pocket yourself.
Yes.
And the lifestyle
shopping bag.
The shopping bag, the lifestyle you've led. And then you are able to say, this year, it has been good.
Well, but I mean, look at the economy is doing very badly, obviously. Double-digit inflation, 20+%. But the poll seems to give a tip to the NRM.
You see,
how do you explain that?
This is what I want to come to. You have 65% of the population saying the economy is not good.
Let's talk about the politics.
And then you have a rating.
Yes.
NRM at 54%.
If we were to hold an election today, the NRM would get
54%.
54%.
Yes.
Who would get the rest?
The FDC will go home with 29%. DP will go home with 5%. Very clear indication. And then significant what you see in this poll is that NRM still maintains popularity across the board.
Towns, villages, education.
You have the town, you have the rural urban population, you have women, men, still they maintain the popularity. But the margin of drop is what surprises us.
Yes.
That 12 months ago, the party was at 69.
Well, they won the election 68%.
Exactly. Yeah. And today, you are saying 54%. Of course, that is...
It's a big drop.
It's a very big drop. We are talking about 14 or so percent.
Percentage points.
This is not so much different from what Afrobarometer came up with when they did their survey about 2 months ago.
Yes.
They found the same margin. Now, again, what is very significant in this data is that you ask another question. If election were held today, which party would you vote for?
Yes.
And you say 54% would vote for NRM.
Yes.
Then we follow that with another question. Tell us.
Individuals.
Should President Museveni contest
in the
next election? And 36% say yes. Again, another 56%.
So those people don't want him to come back.
They don't want him to contest.
They want him to retire.
The party. Now, for us, this is what...
Let's underline that. People love the NRM, but they want the old man to retire.
They are saying the old man, please retire. Now, you want to understand this, that in the previous few months, Easter, March, there was a call from, I think, the clergies.
Yes.
And everybody was saying, Jose, you performed very good,
like
please retire. Now, that could be explaining this kind of drop. Because
the preaching of the sermons.
the preaching of that. But also, as a president, people expect you to deliver to them. Parliament...
It's been around 26 years.
The Parliament of Uganda, I want to tell you, the Parliament of Uganda has performed for the first time.
Let's stick with the old man and the presidency.
I want to bring you to the context.
Yes.
Why the NRM party seems more popular than the leader.
Go on.
That's what I want to explain. The Parliament of Uganda, which is dominated by the NRM, has practically performed. The opposition in the parliament have been overshadowed.
Right.
Their voices have not been heard. Any performance in the parliament has been credited to the NRM rebels, call it. So people still have hope in the party.
But they've lost hope in the president. Why do they want him to go now?
They are saying, please, rest.
Why?
You know, in the past, as he explained, 12 months has been very chaotic. The fears have engulfed that crisis can come we can have conflict.
Right.
All of these have been a driving force.
So the tear gas on the street has
The tear gas on the
cost him
street,
quite a
all
lot.
of those have cost him a lot.
Well, Peter, maybe when you go back, you'll talk to them about it. But let's first of all hear from Patience.
Yeah.
If you know the to contest, who do you want to give it to?
Oh well, there are numerous members who have been mentioned by the public, their choices, but mostly we go to the female candidates, and it's
Let's talk about all of them.
all of them.
Gilbert Bukenya, Mama, but I saw your
Okay.
names in there.
Yes.
The names in your report.
Well, Gilbert Bukenya, I think, is faring at 7%. Is it 7%? And Amama Mbabazi is at 4 point something
Who comes the closest to Museveni?
It's Janet and Rebecca.
If the
Kadaga.
president retires, they want his wife to take charge.
Yes, and
How about
Rebecca Kadaga. And nationally, it's Rebecca Kadaga, I think, standing at 20, is it 13 or 20 something? But Janet follows on closely with the lesser by. The margin is around 5 or 4, 3, something like that.
Listen, what does this tell you? The NRM is popular, Museveni is not popular.
It tells you that, first of all, the situation we are operating in is not very conducive for opposition parties to build their capacity. All these opposition parties you are looking at are impoverished, that they are really surviving on who has the money within their ranks, and then they can do this program.
Even if you watching, but
yes, but NRM is being financed from the taxpayers' money, and they can do well. You can go to any village around, maybe where, and you find a structure of the NRM. You will not find a structure of FDC or DP. Which means that, therefore, we need, because these institutions are very good for governance, we should look into how we can build their capacity. Parties are not for individuals. Parties are for this country, and we need to invest in there to improve their capacity, so that you will not see such things. A person, a predominance of one party. Yes, a predominance of one party. A person who has not heard from the any opposition party for the last 12 months, of course, when you ask him, they will say, no, we only know one party, and that's the NRM. I think that explains why the NRM is still scoring high, and the opposition parties are scoring the way they are doing.
How do you break out of that mold?
I think we need to implement the provision in the Political Parties and Organizational Act, which states that parties must be financed by the state.
All right.
And that will help them build their capacity. Because it has been done in Tanzania,
Mr.
it has been done elsewhere.
DP cannot blame its weakness on NRM. I told you earlier.
Let's talk about the NRM.
NRM
take it from the party is popular, the president is losing it.
I'm coming to that. NRM has created enough space for DP to act. The fact that DP does not have structures outside Kampala.
Well, they say they lose money paid by the taxpayer.
You see, it's not a question of losing money. Creating structures does not necessarily need money, Mr. Edmond. DP does not have structures for mobilization. But let me get into the question of why is NRM becoming more popular than the president. Somebody was saying because of what happened in Parliament of late. It is true, and NRM dominates that Parliament. And whatever happens in Parliament, it is in the best interest of NRM, the party. So there is no way NRM party in Parliament is acting different from NRM party elsewhere. That is in the best interest of the party. Two, you remember in the period running up to the 2011 elections, I do not remember the name of the research agency so well, carried out a research.
Yes.
I think
that was Synovate, that was Afrobarometer.
Yes. One of them indicated that NRM had dropped in support. President Museveni had dropped in support up to 42%, if you may recall, up to about 42%. But we know that President was popular. If you were to scale him against 100%, he was above 60%. You remember what NRM came up with as a study, indicating that President was above 65%, and it came to pass that President got 68% of the national votes from every region this time, including northern Uganda. I come from the north. Yes. Everywhere in northern Uganda, President got the votes. And two, it will not be very fair and it will not be very scientific to measure popularity of a president against 1,300 people. I still insist on that. That's not very representative sample of popularity of a president. Yes, for the purpose of study, they could have opted to do it so that they have a feel of the political, the socio-political status.
Doesn't satisfy you.
It doesn't satisfy me as an NRM. It doesn't satisfy NRM as a party. That the popularity of its leader against the party can be studied in 1,300. And finally, Mr. Edmond, if NRM, the party, is growing in popularity, this is okay for us because the institutional building is part of our program.
Right.
We need to build institution that will determine. Many people have been questioning that will NRM have the courage to tell President Museveni that enough is enough. If the institution is developing, that is okay for the party.
That's okay for you. Patrick, what is likely to happen between now and 2016? Let's try to look forward a little bit.
You know, opinions are measured in a given period of time. They can shift. An event can happen that can sway the opinion. But what we are talking about is the period between 19th of March and April 7th.
Well, but it gives us some feel of the general.
It begins to show
not
you
just
one
those
thing.
days.
What you're beginning to see is a Uganda population divided into three. You have the anti-Museveni, you have the pro-Museveni, and you have the
undecided.
The un-Museveni. Call them undecided.
The indifferent.
Call what's it?
They're different.
What does that mean?
They are not against him, but they can't vote for him.
Well, you said
They cannot
vote. Let's make it clear.
They cannot vote for opposition either. So they are there.
So they're between opposition and NRM?
They are there, yes. You want to see this population growing. During the election, mathematically, you had 58% turnout in the election. Did you see that?
What was the percentage of the the undecided population?
It was 42% during the election. If we took that these people who did not come to vote, they decided not to vote.
That's what
not to vote because they didn't know who got to vote.
42%.
Yes.
Now, if you use a scientific method, if the Electoral Commission went and used a scientific method to tell the public, they would have told the public that Museveni got 68%.
Yes.
Divided by 100, multiplied by 58, which was the turnout. And you have 39% of the population. Those are people who voted for him.
Yes.
You go to Kizito Besigye and say, what did he get? Kizito Besigye got 26. You get that divided by 100 and multiplied by 58%, the turnout. And you have 16%. That is the population of Uganda. You still have about 42-43% of the population who are not allocated.
And likely to go.
And that's very important.
Let's look at the dynamics.
They are there. What this implies is that Uganda might be ruled by a compromise candidate at this point. I want to imagine that a candidate comes up, moves with a certain group of people.
Go on.
Yeah. Moves with a certain group of people.
Yes.
You are going to see this is a bigger chunk. 42 is bigger than 39. It's bigger than 16. It's bigger than any other number. So you are seeing the dynamics there. And I'm very sure some politicians are already calculating and cutting that element.
All right. Crunching numbers there.
Yes.
This is Spectrum on Radio 1. You can call in now.
What message do they want?
Yes.
Our number is 041-4348-111. 031-226-0390. 031-226-1390. When you call in, please tell us your name and where you are calling from. Spectrum, hello? Yes, sir. Good evening, your name?
Yeah, give me the name just for the fun of life.
think you've made your point. Thank you very much, Jimmy, there. Spectrum, hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir, your name? Good evening, your name? Andrew, yes. We seem to have lost you there. Spectrum, hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir, your name? Yes, just be brief. Spectrum, hello? Hello? Yes, sir, your name? Good evening, your name? Samuel, go on. Spectrum, hello?
Edmond.
Yes, sir.
Concluding one thing.
Yes, Jimmy.
The date is just
Let's get back. Okay, one final caller, then we'll get back to the studio. Spectrum, hello? Yes. Good evening, your name? Thank you very much, Patrick. You can respond.
Yes.
Well, you had the callers. You didn't say nothing about the former presidential candidates, for instance.
You know, in research, I've just talked about DP's performance at 5%. Of course, there is an improvement of about 1.5%. Besige and his effort
is gained 3 percentage points.
He goes to 29%
from 26.
But you know, that's very marginal. If you compare to the loss of 14%, they would have been the next in the queue. And you see that the population is not choosing them either. They are entering the other cocoon of the not bothered. That population there is growing, is expanding. We asked people who did not vote in the previous election, and there are those who said, we went there, we couldn't find our name. It was the biggest number. But again, the other biggest number was those who said it was going to be rigged anyway.
Oh, some people thought the election was going to be stolen?
Oh, yes.
So really?
They said...
So they stayed at home?
They stayed at home. So you begin to attribute that behavior to the Electoral Commission, and I put this to Electoral Commission, that they need to clean up themselves, they need to be appealing to everybody, so that if you ask somebody about election, everybody is ready to go out. And
those people thought the election was going to be stolen. Do they think it was stolen? What now?
They actually did not ideally say it was stolen. What they said, the election was rigged.
They say it was rigged.
It was rigged.
They don't think the result.
And like we said,
favor of the losers.
And like I've said, that the questions were closed. We did not go into details. Find how was it rigged. In a poll, you don't go that much. It's now you who is writing a report to be able to interpret events.
Find explanation.
Yeah, find an explanation.
Vincent Mayanja, you had it all. You cannot get 14% from Museveni. He's lost it. Nobody's picking it up.
Yeah.
Well, I already said this, that the opposition parties need really to read through this and find a way out and act really. For me, my conclusion is that there is that population that is not yet represented in the political message that is being given out. They don't find it on the opposition, they don't find it with the government. And as opposition, we need to find out what is it they want to hear. And we need to really interface with this group and find out what their purposes are.
If we do that, man said he wants a road. You can't.
Well, like that one, maybe it was a major problem with the NRM in northern Uganda, and it is solving the problem because it's there. I don't know, but definitely we need to go back and study. And I want really this gentleman to help whichever party with these politicians, give them that report. They read it, analyze it, and then they begin find out what needs to be done.
Is Uganda ready? Patience. Is Uganda ready for a woman president?
I would think so.
Oh, you think so?
Yes.
The US was not ready. They voted a black man instead.
Well, it's depending on the findings. They are not my own words. They are not my own assumptions or instincts. It's the findings which speak much about what the public thinks.
Right.
So by the mere fact that they have given high percentage to the female candidates, and please pay attention to this, because it's not just female candidates, but candidates who have a track record of good deeds. If you look at the male candidates who have gone below scoring 4 and so on, it's because of the, like, what can I say, the
bad publicity.
Yeah, the bad publicity, but also the, what can I call it, the
well, what have they done wrong?
They've been having.
Trump has been out of the country for a long time. He didn't get too much.
But he didn't even vote. So.
They didn't know and voted.
No, I don't think he's not yet ready for candidature for presidency.
This one, you see, as NRM, I think.
Edmond, actually.
Sorry, Edmond, not this one, Edmond. We have started the journey of implementing our manifesto. The gentleman from Amolata called and praised NRM for the perfect road. Perfect. If you have ever traveled between Lala and Swati, that road is perfect. The road at the past was bad, but it's not perfect. The gentleman
means there's the fountains on the sides, or what? Flowers all the way.
I want to compliment.
Gets all the attributes of a perfect thing. Two, the gentleman has talked about peace in the region, especially northern Uganda.
Yes.
This is a very, very fundamental matter.
Right.
And to me, that one could have contributed in the northern people voting for NRM. But before I ask my colleague a question.
Very briefly.
Yeah, I'll ask him, yes. But Mr. Edmond, you see, as NRM, we have an agenda for 5 years. And whatever we are accomplishing in the 5 years, we already started the journey.
All right.
You remember recently, President went and launched the construction on 2 major roads leading to Sudan, Gulu, Atiak, Nimule Road.
Right, okay.
Yes, there was Arua, Bora Road. But one thing I would like to know, yes, from my brother, yes, I know time is not on our side, is... how did these people enter into rural areas? Because in the explanation, they missed how they entered the rural areas.
I don't want to believe that a survey can be called a national survey when they have not captured the rural areas. I think that is really a fallacy. But they will tell us. But I believe that this was thoroughly done, and it covered everybody.
Patrick, maybe one word.
Yes, from two things. 80% of the respondents were from rural areas.
Okay.
Proportionally disputed according to the population of this country.
That's what I wanted to hear.
20% urban, 80% rural.
Which is the national
65 districts out of 80 parent districts of this country.
65 or 55?
65 out of the 80 parent districts. Now, somebody Amulata said infrastructure.
Yes.
That comes out number one in the survey. People want to see
the nice roads.
They want nice roads?
We have to go. Thank you very much, dear guest. Time cuts is short. Dr. Patrick Wakida, CEO, Chief Executive Officer, Research World International. Mr. Pido Lukwiya from the State House Media Desk. They do a lot of research there. Mr. Vincent Mayanja, Deputy Secretary General of the Democratic Party, and Ms. Patience Bulaga, Senior Research Executive at the Research World International. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond Kizito Spectrum. We'll be back tomorrow. Up next is the news in English.
You can pay, you can buy, pay your bills, pay school fees.